Hi there, I'm Roy Mitchell, and
I'm Perry Loggins.
we're going to talk about what we learned in gifted class. Oh, I see you down there hollering for help there, Perry. Nice
I need it
picture.
desperately. Thank you, Roy.
Yes, but seriously, what people think of as a gifted child is not something that can be easily stereotyped by someone who looks brainy or does well on tests. A gifted child can be many different things, but that's hard to put in a definition form. So let's see what the nation says is the definition of a gifted child, and I'll have to do my Abraham Lincoln voice. Do I sound like Abraham Lincoln?
Not really, Roy, but go with it.
Do I sound like an Arabic Abraham Lincoln?
You absolutely do.
The federal government says that youth are those who can give evidence of high achievement capabilities in areas such as intellectual, creative, artistic, and leadership capacity, are in a specific academic field, or who need services, or academic activities. I can't read very well in this accent.
Try a different one, Roy.
Not ordinarily provided by the school in order to fully develop these capabilities. Well, that's a mouthful right there. But what does that really mean? Well, let's look at Georgia's definition. It even has more than the national definition. Oh, and there's Jimmy Carter. How's your Jimmy Carter, Perry?
Well, Roy, in Georgia, a gifted education student is defined as one who demonstrates in a high degree of intellectual and or creative abilities, exhibits exceptionally high degree of motivation, and or excels in specific academic fields, needs special instruction and or special ancillary services to achieve at levels commensurate with his or her abilities.
Don't quit your day job. But anyway, I underline a part. The motivation part is actually not in the national definition of gifted, but it is in the state definition. See, there's a lot of discrepancy as to how you can define what a gifted student is. But let's see what the criteria we have for students in our classes to become gifted. And it's very broad. You can see we have mental ability. People who are in the gifted program under mental ability must score a 99th percentile if they're in grades K through 12, or a 96th percentile if they're in grades 3 through 12. So that's 99 or 96. I guess I didn't have to put these, but I like playing with this new toy we have here. Also, Georgia law requires that students score at or above the 90th percentile on an achievement test, most likely the ITBS. So even though these are broad characteristics, you have to have some really nice scores on them just to be put in the gifted program. Student must also score at or above the 90th percent on total battery of standardized test of creativity. A test of creative thinking must be above 90% too. So pretty high bar set there. And even in the motivation is determined with a standardized motivational characteristics rating scale. And on that scale, you have to have a 90th percentile as well, or have a GPA of 3.5 to 4.0. So even though it's a broad scale, you really have some high criteria. But inevitably, some people will fall through the cracks at first, and they have to be let in at a later time. I just like this slide because it has Bigfoot on it.
I like it too, Roy.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of stereotypes and myths. First of all, gifted children are able to accomplish anything they put their minds to.
And that's not true, huh?
No, it's not. We also see gifted children do not have as many problems as other children.
And that's not true either.
We see that gifted children are quite independent.
No, it just seems like that's what people think of gifted children. They have higher expectations just because they're smart, but they are kids too.
You know, often, Roy, we think that gifted children do not have to put much effort into getting a high grade. They're autonomous when they study. We know that's not always correct.
No, that's not true.
Gifted children are always rewarded for their efforts.
And I like the last one, that gifted children must be examples to others. And that's probably the worst thing you can do, is just set them aside as the constant tutor all the time. But here's the big picture. How you like my picture frame right there?
Ta-ta-ta-ta.
I thought that was a gifted thought there. Well, anyway, the characteristics of gifted are a huge amount of characteristics. I mean, it's not just smart. They learn things quickly, oh sure, and they have a big vocabulary, but they grasp big concepts. One of the characteristics is a different, great sense of humor, all the way down to perfectionism, which can be kind of a challenge sometimes with gifted kids, and many times these gifted kids are self-critical. They are very intense emotionally. That sounds like you, Perry.
It does, Roy.
Oh, you are so intense emotionally. And sometimes they have difficulty in separating real from the imaginary. So it's not always something that you would think as the smart, so-called nerdy kid in the classroom. Now, there are many different characteristics, and this is not even the characteristics page. I don't think well when I have an accent like this. And was that an anywhere good Shakespeare accent?
No, Roy, that was more like Samuel Jackson.
Maybe this is a Samuel Jackson page. I should change Shakespeare up there. Anyway, there are a lot of gifted resources, a lot of gifted resources, especially in the age of Google. You have Hootamath, which are games. You have Khan Academy, which seems like it has something on everything. Lots of different toys that you can get, especially for gifted type kids. Even publishing companies meet the kids' social emotional needs of gifted kids. Even down here, gifted education is one of the emphasis in Proof Rock Press and so on. And there's just so many more that we had, just hard to fit on a page or two. Well, let's talk about strategies for gifted learners.
Yeah, Roy, it's important that we stretch their creativity by alternating or giving different choices. You know, choices, we talk about differentiation. And according to Susan Weinbrenner, differentiation learning for gifted students involves adjusting the content or the learning process or the types of products created in learning environments through different expectations, places to do their work, and assessment practices. And I think you've got some examples for us.
Yeah, so this is not like your old-fashioned classroom where the teacher stands up and relays information all day to everybody. I think the key word here is going to be choices. Gifted students, if they are given the choices, can really fly. Some of the possible strategies, and there are quite a few more than this, but all of these seem to have choices. You can make a tic-tac-toe menu where they don't say which assignment they have, but they have to make a tic-tac-toe in whatever direction. Baseball menu, you have to have maybe a big assignment for a home run, or the student could do 4 little assignments. Dinner menu, they can have several choices under breakfast, several choices under lunch, several choices under dinner. Why did they call it a dinner menu?
Oh, they're trying to put us in a box, and you can't do that with a gifted learner, Roy.
That's exactly right. I'm glad I called it something different besides. It's an all-day smorgasbord.
It's a buffet of choices, Roy.
That's right. Book clubs are always a nice thing. The 2-5-8 menu. You
really like that one.
You have to get a certain number of points, say 10 points, and 8 are harder assignments than 2, so you can kind of steer the gifted toward the 8. Also, a teacher contract. Whenever a student goes above and beyond, really what the rest in the class may end up doing. What about differentiation strategies?
Yeah, Roy, we need to have some pre-assessment strategies that we look at before we actually teach the child.
You mean like a test before we even start teaching?
Yeah, we need to know what they can do before we try to teach it to them all over again.
Okay.
So a couple of things we're going to focus on is the content. First of all, what are they going to learn? Then the process, how are they going to learn it? Product, how will they prove their learning? And the environment, where will they learn?
Yeah, sounds like the flexible grouping is an essential type thing. No more cookie cutter. Hey, how'd you like that cookie cutter analogy I had over there? That was like genius.
That's one of your better ones, actually.
Yeah.
You know, Roy, there are a few that I know both you and I have tried in our classroom. One that I enjoy is the most difficult first.
KWL charts can let you know what the student already knows.
The acrostic pre-assessments.
Yeah, and that's kind of like a fun activity in the first place, and they kind of can do that without really realizing that this is like a pretest.
And a good way to get started, of course, we've tried many times, is the jot list of seeing what they know before you start it.
Yeah, and you can do that pre-assessment without much difficulty. Just look at this paper. They don't know it. Look at this paper. They do know it. And you can have some quick pre-assessment. Oh, look at that smiling kid right up there at the top. That's just like my classroom, isn't it? Well, anyway, here's some more ideas for differentiation. Not going to read all of these, but you can see that they have stuff to do with like computers, stuff to do with like resource centers. So you're not doing the same thing as everybody else in the classroom if you already get it. Tell me a little bit about some low prep and high prep stuff we can do in our class.
Yeah, and we pull this from Eric Roy. Low prep, you can identify the student area of interest, which they enjoy. They're going to work harder for you and enjoy it more if they have a voice in what they're doing.
And low prep is always good when teaching.
Yes, absolutely. Not reading all of them, but learning contracts seem to work well for me this year, where the student kind of signs up and agrees to do this work in this particular format. They seem more engaged. What do you think?
Well, it gives them a level of accountability more than just sitting in a classroom and letting it come to them.
Of course, there's times, Roy, when we are going to have to put in a lot of preparation, and some of these are worth it. They're all worth it. It's just the time. We have curriculum compacting, and then we have tiered assignments, learning centers, and wow, those take a lot of time, but they sure are beneficial.
Yeah, I tell you, the groups that I've had this year really got a lot out of compacting whenever they learned it all early and they were to be able to fly ahead of others. Why don't we go to the next slide? I think we're kind of running out of time on this one. Go ahead and tell us about the 4 C's of gifted differentiation.
Yeah, you got 4 C's. You've got the complexity, it needs to be complex. You've got the curriculum compacting. You got creative, critical thinking skills. And finally, the most important one, choice, and more choices.
Yeah, it seems
Gifted kids love choices.
Seems like they do. The gifted kids really seem to thrive upon giving them the autonomy to pick their direction.
Well, Roy, what do we use to assess gifted students for eligibility once they're in the gifted program with Floyd County Schools, and how do we evaluate them?
Well, to get in the gifted program, they have to have a parent or teacher nomination, and then we give them the COGAT or ITBS. This assesses the aptitude of them. The teacher will get checklists filled out about creativity, and once you get in, you have some standards: no lower than a B in your gifted classes, and you have to be passing your other classes or you get put on some probation. But you can get off of that probation if you improve your grades. What is the Floyd County Schools Gifted Education Program? Not going to read all of it because we're running short on time, but the mission, as you can see, is provide quality education for a quality life. Elementary school, you've got the resource model and cluster grouping. We have a lot of cluster grouping at middle school. Middle school, you can also see the advanced content. We have a few of those classes in the cluster grouping. Then the secondary, you even have the internship, which can be in the mix there.
Yeah, looking at the 6 gifted programming standards, Roy, we have the learning development, the assessment, the planning, instruction, the environment, which is key, in my opinion, the programs, and the professional development. You can find out more information from the Common Core standards listed down there in the bottom left.
Yeah, just some standards and goals for Floyd County gifted students. We want to kind of have a research emphasis, just so they can get a little more in-depth learning and get those skills for researching in the first place. We really want to have some rigor with complex topics. Sure, they can probably even go farther than we think they can sometimes. Gifted students will develop the practical critical thinking and logical problem solving skills, and man, they are good at that sometimes.
Yes, they
logical
are.
Problem solving. And sometimes they'll come up with some stuff that's way out of the box, but that's usually good.
And finally, Roy, down there, the unique characteristics really influence the interactions with others.
Yeah, and doing chess club, I like the fact we have this little kid playing chess right here. Maybe that little kid will be part of the Coosa Middle Chess Club at some point. So that is some of the things that we learned in our gifted class this year. Anything else you want to say before we finish?
It's been a pleasure, Roy.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.